The Keyblade Graveyard.
Welcome to the Salty Spittoon. How tough are you?
Many months later.
The Keyblade Graveyard.
Welcome to the Salty Spittoon. How tough are you?
Nomura! Ephemer, the true Lost Master. Well, not the Lost Master, but, well, look, I'm trying to be philosophical, alright? Just let me have this. Introduced in Kingdom Hearts Key, over the course of 7 long years, this single ordinary Keyblade wielder would go on to play a pivotal role in humanity's survival. When all of the Union leaders made it out to safety, Skuld and Ephemer's pods suffered damage from the collapsing Daybreak Town. However, unlike Skuld, who although suffered massive damage from the lifeboat malfunctioning, leading her to suffer from severe amnesia and becoming Subject X. More on that in the next video. Ephemer's lifeboat unfortunately did not activate at all, and he remained behind with the wreckage of Daybreak Town. With duct tape and a dream, he goes on to rebuild the Lost World into Scala Ed Kylum and become the founder. And with all the Dandelions left behind, as well as all the Union leaders scattered throughout time, he was the only Keyblade wielder present, leading him to earn the title of the first true Keyblade Master, even though we all know he's quite a few masters behind being first. Shh, they don't need to know that. And with this, Ephemer's story ultimately comes to an end. Or has it? After completing the main story in Vanilla Kingdom Hearts 3, you unlock these battle gates scattered across the worlds. In the Keyblade Graveyard, you fight an optional, for lack of a better term, super boss, because at the end of the day, it was the game's super boss at the time, even though it was quite lackluster. I digress. This Heartless goes by the name of Dark Inferno. That's right, I said Heartless, and I'll explain specifically why in a bit. For the sake of not getting confused, when I refer to the Dark Inferno in this video, I am referring to both the secret boss as well as the one in Remind as one and the same. In fact, I do believe that they are the same, and that the Remind Dark Inferno is just Nomura's way of injecting it more in your face directly into the story lore, rather than being an optional boss that many may not do. And looking at it from this perspective, I feel he did this for good reason. Dark Inferno is extremely vital to the upcoming story, which isn't anything new when it comes to super bosses throughout the series, as we see with Kingdom Hearts 1, Birth by Sleep, as well as Kingdom Hearts 2 as a few examples. A dual wielder who rocks a peculiar fashion style around its neck, a scarf. Dark Inferno is in fact the Heartless of Ephemer. Let's explore this a little bit. Remember earlier how I stated Ephemer's story had come to a close? With the presentation of his statue in Scala Ed Kylum, as well as Sigurd's story and the use of the word was and not is, we all became under the impression that Ephemer had passed away, which actually wouldn't be too far from the truth. Kinda. Let me explain. In fact, I believe that Ephemer may have perished on the battlefield, and if he had perished on the battlefield, then the chances of him having been defeated by darkness is quite high. In Kingdom Hearts, when a person succumbs to darkness, there are 2 beings created in their stead, those being a Heartless and a Nobody. The Heartless, a being that is created from one's heart falling to darkness, and the Nobody created from the parts left behind, the body giving the Nobody its form, and the soul giving it, well, a soul, enabling it the ability to act. And the stronger the will, the stronger the Heartless and or Nobody, as we see with Master Xehanort, Ansem the Seeker of Darkness being his Heartless and Xemnas being his Nobody. Both of their strength is beyond question, and both prove to be formidable foes. Focusing on the Heartless though, there are 2 types of Heartless, the Purebloods and the Emblems. The Heartless with Emblems were a product of Ansem's experiments gone wrong when he used Pureblood Heartless as a catalyst. The Purebloods, however, are the natural product of a heart falling to darkness. An obvious distinguishing feature of purebloods is a heart-shaped hole located somewhere on their being, examples being Darkseid as well as the Invisible. However, another challenger rocking this trait came into the mix, and that is the Dark Inferno. And to that note, if you remember, there is another being with this exact same hole-shaped emblem in their body, and this being in fact bears the most resemblance to the type of Heartless that the Dark Inferno is. Are you able to guess? That's right, Ansem's Guardian. If you look at the Guardian side by side with Dark Inferno, they look like the same type of Heartless, bearing a lot of similarities in design. And if you remember correctly, what did the Guardian end up proving to be? Terra's heart. Further explaining this being Ephemer's Heartless, but not just that, Ephemer's heart as well. So with that explains Dark Inferno being a Heartless. But why is it Ephemer's Heartless? The only evidence can't just be the fashionable style sense it rocks, is it? Well, let me take you to Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. When Sora begins his adventure traversing the Guardian's hearts, the first Guardian that he travels to is Ventus. While exploring his heart, Sora is suddenly thrown into the Keyblade Graveyard, where he is then faced with a terrible darkness, that being the Dark Inferno. Now, some seem to take this as the Dark Inferno being a strong darkness residing in Ventus's heart, or a part of it, much like how Vanitas was one of the true 13 darknesses taken form. However, if you ask me, I don't think that's quite the case at all. Ventus's heart wasn't just given a nice little scrub of darkness, it was stripped completely clean by Master Xehanort and birthed by sleep. This is further confirmed later in the game when Vexen, or Evan, runs into Ventus and speaks these words.
A heart devoid of darkness, stripped clean of it at that. Very questionable.
Back to Remind, during this scene we see Sora state that Ventus's heart was extremely calm and peaceful, that being because it's pure light.
Ven's heart was so peaceful.
So that adds two people into the mix of confirming that Ventus's heart is devoid of darkness. That being said though, Sora isn't the only one who states this. In this exact moment there is another. There is a mysterious voice that states, "No, leave him be. His heart is too pure, and pure hearts can be most careless." And immediately after Sora hears this, he is met with the Dark Inferno. These words being spoken here are from the Dark Inferno themselves, aka Ephemer. This is not so far-fetched when you think about it, because this is not the first time Sora has made a connection and spoken with Ephemer. Remember this scene in Kingdom Hearts 3 that we all just glossed over when it happened? Don't get me wrong, the chain of events that were happening with all the Union Cross players being represented in Kingdom Hearts 3, as well as Sora having his own anime protagonist moment, was beyond awesome. However, that being said, many of us seem to brush off the fact that Ephemer was here.
Need some help?
And if Nomura taught us anything by this point, it is that he doesn't do anything without reason. Even the most tiniest detail has a hefty meaning behind it. Ephemer's appearance here was not simply for Easter egg purposes, nor was it just a reference to Kingdom Hearts Key. Sora fully acknowledged and heard Ephemer speaking to him.
Need some help?
And this interaction took place in the exact same spot that it is taking yet again with the Dark Inferno. Remember, the stronger the will, the stronger the heartless and or nobody. Key word being will. Ephemer's will is tying him to this place, in the same way that the lingering will had waited in this exact spot until the day that someone would come and set him free. And a question you may have is, well, why doesn't Ephemer just leave? Why is the Dark Inferno staying here? And to that end, I like to point back to Kingdom Hearts 1 when Sora turned back into a human from a Heartless. He stated to Kairi that while he was a Heartless, his memories were fading, and he had practically forgotten everything.
I couldn't find my way. As I stumbled through the dark, I started forgetting things. My friends, who I was. The darkness almost swallowed me.
The same thing is applied to Ephemer. The only thing that he has is his ties to the Keyblade Graveyard, and this inkling feeling that this place holds significant importance to him. And as we all know, it does in fact hold a significant importance to Ephemer. Perhaps what little memories he does have has to do with the reuniting of the Union leaders. Specifically the memories of knowing that the Union leaders are all supposed to meet up at the Keyblade Graveyard. Even though he doesn't know exactly who he is waiting for, he knows that he is supposed to meet up with people here. So at the end of the day, Ephemer is still in some way, shape, or form around and kicking. But then the question becomes, would he be returning? And if he is able to return at all? Remember this line from Kingdom Hearts Remind when Xehanort is explaining his plans to Saïx and Xigbar. Isa and Breg? Isa and Luciu? Whatever. Roll the clip.
My incarnations from past times, vessels into which I transferred my heart, my essence, were destroyed. Thus I was restored to what you see now. For one to completely disappear, Their heart and body must be restored to their original form. That is one reason why I distributed my heart into several vessels.
Meaning that for one to be completely defeated, you must defeat them in their original state. Go back to the beginning of the video when I explained what a heartless and a nobody was. It wasn't because I thought any of you didn't know by this point what they were. We fought literal thousands of them. But it was for this specific moment. The heartless is the person's heart fall into darkness, and the nobody is what's left behind of that person when the heart is taken, the body and soul. As Xehanort has just stated, when both are defeated, you return to your original state, explaining why Xehanort exists in his full complete form, because Sora defeated Ansem and Xemnas both. So assumably by defeating Ephemer's Heartless as we did, Ephemer may have already returned somewhere in the universe, or at the very least, if his nobody still exists, we're at least one step closer now. And to that I say, I'm tapping out for the day. That's a discussion we're gonna have to save for another time. That being said, it wouldn't be the first time we see someone come back from being turned into a Heartless. Again, as we saw with Sora in Kingdom Hearts 1 and Terra in Kingdom Hearts 3. Maybe the way he returns has to do with Subject X, aka Skull. Again, we'll talk more about this in the next video. And in order to help, we have to get her memories back. Who knows? All I know is this is the end of the video, and in turn, another theory. Let's play a little game as well as a bit of fun fact. My personal avatar that I use, I actually drew myself. And despite how bad it may look, there are 4 references to 4 of some of my favorite series represented in this avatar. One of them, I'm sure by this point you already know, the other 2 being just as obvious, and the last one being a little bit tricky, so I'll give a bit of a hint. It has to do with the art style. See if you can get all 4. However, that's gonna do it for this video, and like always, if you like the video, then, well, you know what to do. And until next time, it's been Vel, I love your faces, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.